Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents. In today's episode, entitled mother lets her kid steal my blind cane. Let them eat cake. Graduation grandma. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled mother lets her kid steal my blind cane. So a bit of backstory, I am a 28-year-old woman who just recently went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth group to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, and while down there I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day my husband asks if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messages again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figure everything in life is an experience and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first and I was only grabbing a few things, so I didn't need a cart. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer and I figure maybe I had whacked someone's leg and apologize. Cue entitled kid, EK, and entitled mother, EM. Me, shoot, I'm sorry. EM, hey. You just hit my son. Me, I'm so sorry, ma'am, I didn't see him there. EM begins yelling, how could you not see him, he's clearly right here. Now I'm fully blind, but I don't wear sunglasses. Mostly because I can't afford a good UV blocking pair, but also I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person, but I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum, so I try to calmly explain. Me, ma'am, I'm blind, I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane, so I can get around without. She cuts me off, if you're blind, why aren't you wearing big sunglasses? Now, as a blind person I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better, so I try to happily answer as many as I can. Me, those are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside. EM, you're not blind, you're faking it. Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind, it's an actual hell, and nothing pisses me off more than when someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink I realize this little demon spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic, please give that back. I really do need it. EM, no you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you. I hear her shuffle away and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays and such as they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and end up crashing and falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. Suddenly I feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice, we'll call him AG for awesome guy, asks if I'm okay and to stay right here. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank because his footsteps sounded like a giant and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion and a loud crash, then before I know it the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts my cane into my palm and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me wiping tears from my cheeks. Thank you so much, I didn't know how to handle that. AG, don't worry about it, some people are just monsters. This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screeching of EM, something about AG grabbing the cane and pulling hard, flinging her little devil child into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. Edit. Because of the sheer overwhelming amount of people asking if you're blind, how are you typing, they'll first answer with my fingers, and secondly I'm using a screen reader called Narrator that reads the screen. Wherever my cursor or finger is over the screen, it reads. When I type a letter, it reads. Guys, just, Google it or something? I hope you don't let her deter you from exploring your new world and gaining confidence. Do you have a blind academy near you? They usually have classes for adults who are newly blind. Try calling the CNIB if you are in Canada or your country's equivalent of National Blind Association. I do have a lighthouse for the blind near me, but I had to get a diagnosis first, which I got, and then boom, pandemic, don't leave your house. I can't believe someone would do that. I'm very glad that man helped you. The bystander effect can be really awful sometimes, but as you said, I'm glad there are good people left in this world. I hope you're doing okay and will soon be able to improve your experiences in public once we are allowed outside again. Thank you, you're sweet. Honestly, I would have personally jumped in to help someone in a heartbeat, and it's nice to know that others would too. Just hearing all these comments assures me that it can and does get better. If her brat wanted to play with a blind cane, he should have his eyes taped shut and then be yelled at every time he deliberately hits a person, because he is, of course, just pretending to be blind. I'm feeling vindictive tonight. This woman knowingly and willingly allowed her kid to not only steal from a blind person, but to steal one of the most important things that a blind person could have to still make it around in this world. I guarantee you she even encouraged it. People like that deserve to be publicly shamed in a town square. Thank God for that awesome dude though, for sure. Side note, I hope this doesn't sound rude, but how do you read comments? I'm guessing you have a text-to-speech program of some sort? Regardless, technology can be an amazing thing. I wonder if she'd let her kid push someone out of a wheelchair because she decided they could just walk. Karen needs a prison sentence and to be stuck on an island with nothing except the clothes she has on. The many times I've worked as a cashier and had to help blind people is always worthwhile, but if they can't find the card swiper and ask me for help, I'll carefully guide their hands to it. Even had an elderly man accidentally forget his cane in a shopping cart before, so I had to run his cane back to him. His daughter had realized that he forgot his cane, but I made it to him before he stumbled and fall. See, people like you are the reason I'm less afraid to go in public. It's really easy to overhelp a blind person by grabbing us, pushing us in a direction, or just straight taking over. But you understand that a gentle nudge is all it takes, and that means the world, trust me. How do blind people type, especially so well, unless they got someone to type for them? You know, I actually get this a lot. Firstly, you don't need eyes to type, just fingers. I was taught as a kid how to type without looking. Also, my computer has something called a screen reader. As its name implies, it reads the screen aloud to me. When I type, it reads out the letters. As I move my mouse around, it reads out where it is and what it's over, etc. I've also experienced kids stealing my symbol cane at work. I currently work at a theme park. I don't have the pocket space to fold my cane up when I'm not using it, so I always keep it at an arm's reach. However, these two kids decided to take it when I was busy dealing with customers. I didn't notice it was gone until I went to reach for it and couldn't find it. I have limited peripheral vision and can only see things when they're in the center of my vision, so it took me a while to look around. I saw the kids using it as a sword, but then the mother saw I was looking. I wear sunglasses because I'm also very sensitive to all light, and reluctantly took it off her kids and bought it back and just said sorry in a non-meaningful way. It's just disgusting when parents do this when they know how important canes are to the people who need them. Let them eat cake. Long ago, way back in the before time, I worked for one of those bulk warehouse club stores. My trade was simple. I was a wrangler of the Silver Buffalo, and dutifully retrieved the old ghetto strollers I did. The job in and of itself wasn't the worst I'd ever had. I got plenty of exercise, got to be outside, and generally didn't have to interact with the members. Calling them customers was taboo, for the most part. For the most part. The thing about this job is that the company I worked for had a reputation for being cheap. Thusly, more often than not, I was on my own out in the parking lot. Big whoop, you might say. You gathered carts? You should see how hard my job is. Yeah, well. Shut up. This is my story, but munch. I digress. The reason that being alone sucked is that this store didn't have just one kind of cart. Hell, they didn't even just have two kinds of carts. You had your classic garden variety cart, the kiddie cart with the plastic facade to make it resemble a car, the electric scooters, which weren't supposed to leave the store, but did so with alarming frequency, and finally, the bulky, hard-to-control flatbeds. On top of that, whenever someone needed help loading their haul into their minivans, I was the guy they called. You know, because the greeters, cashiers, and managers were all busy. As you might expect, one man cannot be in multiple places at once, and as a result, on some of our busier days it became incredibly difficult to keep enough carts in the vestibule. Our story begins on one of these days. So there I was, chugging along like a good worker drone, struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of people coming in to buy cheap bulk goods. Sure enough, I get a call on the radio. Manager, SKTCHH, top_gorilla 17. We need you to help some members load their purchases. SKTCHH. Me dash, I'd love to, but I'm barely able to keep up out here as is. Manager, SKTCHH, just do it, top_gorilla 17. You can afford to stop gathering carts for 2 minutes. SKTCHH. Ron Howard, he couldn't. I didn't want to push my luck, so I complied. After spending 20 minutes loading people's purchases because when one person needs it, suddenly they all need it, I came back to find my vestibule a near ghost town, save for a single line of carts that was half gone, and the Karen. I won't waste time describing this specimen. She was the prototype. You know what she looked like. There she stood, menacing, tapping her foot with such speed that could make any metal drummer green with envy. You could collect the contempt in her gaze in a jar. Karen, where are the big flat ones? I blanked for a moment. Me, I'm sorry? Karen, ugh. Mexicans? For the record, I'm very much white. Karen, where are the flat ones? Me, oh, you mean the flatbeds. I'm sorry, I was just helping some other members load their merchandise and haven't had a chance to dash. Karen, oh my god, I don't care about your excuses, you have one job, and a trained monkey could do it. I just want this lady out of my face, so I don't fight it. Me, sorry ma'am. I'll grab one from the parking lot for you. Karen, you'd better. So I go back out to the lot and find a whole line of flatbeds sticking out of a corral blocking several parking spaces. I push them all into the vestibule where she waits, huffing about how I'm wasting her valuable time. I separate one from the rest and bring it to her. Me, I'm terribly sorry about the wait, ma'am. She leers at me with utter malice. Karen, unbelievable. And with that, she dismisses herself into the store, where she will be someone else's problem. I shake my head and return to doing what I'm paid to do. About 15 minutes later, I'm returning a line of carts when I see her pushing her flatbed to her Miata and jawing about stupid people, most certainly referring to me, on her cell phone. You know what she had bought? What she had insisted on having a flatbed for? A cake. This wasn't even like a big cake. It was one of those little circular numbers, like this. Anyways, I witness as she continues to yammer on about how I nearly ruined I tell you her precious baby's birthday party, when the most glorious thing happened. Still clutching her phone with those giant scoop claws of hers, she attempts to pick up the cake with one hand, the plastic topper pops off, and she spills the cake all over her undoubtedly expensive designer outfit. Seething with white-hot rage, she locks eyes with me. Karen, you. Get me another cake. Now. Me, terribly sorry, ma'am. I've got one job, and these carts won't gather themselves. I walked away, shit-eating grin plastered on my face as her shrieks faded into the distance behind me. You've been waiting a long time for that pun, haven't you? You stole my line. I was gonna say that. Still, the mishap was the icing on the cake. Your retort, sweet as cake. It was one of my better moments. Usually I do suffer from staircase wit, but this was one of the few times in my life I had the right comeback loaded. You enjoyed that pun way too much. And so you should. The stars aligned for that pun. That ending pun is priceless. Absolutely beautiful. Between your beautiful writing and the pun at the end, this story deserves way more upvotes. Graduation Grandma. My daughter graduated today from an online public school. As we were waiting to be allowed into the venue, entitled Grandma had a large bouquet of balloons in the air. It was easily 4 feet across and at the perfect height to block people's view. I would have been really pissed if I had been forced to sit behind her, so we intentionally headed in a different direction to sit. She sat there for about 5 minutes in a front seat before it started, when an administrator went up to her and informed her that it was not allowed and it would be in the back of the room. It kills me how oblivious and entitled some people are. This is up there with people grocery shopping that leave their cart blocking the entire aisle while they look for something. You're not the only one in the store, Brenda. I accidentally had my trolley blocking an aisle and I was so embarrassed when I realized. Fortunately, I noticed before I inconvenienced people. I'm probably the jerk for this, but one time I was in a very poor mood at the store and 2 people were blocking the aisle having a huge conversation while I was trying to get past. So I very loudly and sarcastically went, "Oh my God. I haven't seen you in forever. Do you want to block the whole aisle with me?" They shot me a look and moved out of the way. A woman at my SIL's high school graduation kept blowing an air horn, which they'd specifically said not to do. We finally got campus police to deal with her because she told every usher/volunteer who came over to buzz off, like the rules weren't for her. There's at least one at every graduation. When my son graduated HS, it took place in a large room with flat seating. It said on the tickets, "No balloons, period." I still saw at least 3 parents arguing to be let in, but they were stopped at the door. One dad even said, "What am I supposed to do with them then?" and argued that the car was too far away. I was in by then, so I don't know what he did. I usher at graduations. This happens a lot. I have been told multiple times at different arenas that hiring the equipment to get balloons from the arena top costs over $10,000. I have never worked a venue that allows balloons due to this and the obstructed views. If you said anything to her, she would have screeched that they're for my granddaughter who's graduating, as if you weren't all there to watch your kids graduate also. This is just like chicks at a sold-out concert sitting on their guy's shoulders. Sounds like Granny just didn't think about it correctly. She is a granny. Not exactly relevant, but when my sister-in-law graduated from college, we had a run-in with a Karen. Some relatives came from Mexico to see her graduate, and her grandma was clapping and cheering in Spanish during a speech. I guess she didn't understand or was just very excited, but the old couple in front of us kept turning around and shushing her, and rolling their eyes at her. It really pissed me off because it was obvious that she was foreign and didn't understand what was happening. Would have been great if the person behind her had something sharp to hand. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.